Jiro here for Umbra Games with a review of God of War, released April 20th, 2018, exclusively for PlayStation 4. I've been a pretty big fan of the God of War series, but I've only played the 3 core games. Maybe to get more people to pay attention to a sequel, the developers decided to leave off the number 4 from the title, as most of the time when we get a reboot, like Tomb Raider or Prince of Persia, they're simply the title of the game that we who keep track have to add a parenthetical date after it in order to keep it straight in our databases. With God of War, though, it's a bit of an oddity, as we pick up after the events of the God of War trilogy, and spoilers here to an 8-plus-year-old game, Kratos nearly completely eliminated every hero and god in the Greek pantheon and decided to seek some solitude by running away to Norway and having a child with a woman there. Thus, this new entry opens with young Atreus and Kratos mourning the passing of their mother and wife respectively. The two begin on a journey to complete her dying wish of having her ashes scattered in the winds from the highest peak. I've been asked if knowledge of the prior games was required to thoroughly enjoy the events in this God of War, to which I usually just tell someone to find a YouTube video that kind of sums things up. Basically just know that Kratos killed a lot of people and gods and heroes, including his father Zeus. So I apologize in advance that the video for this review isn't quite as exciting or complete as normal, because there are a few visual cues that I think can ruin what I found to be really cool moments in the plot that I'm going to do my best not to spoil for anyone. So let's start with the design choice to make this game open world. Previous entries in the series were level by level, get from point A to point B, with hidden paths you could discover, usually obfuscated by the fixed camera angle, to find secrets. That fixed point camera angle is now gone, replaced with the familiar behind-the-shoulder perspective. The shift has given it more in common with this generation's Horizon Zero Dawn, Tomb Raider, and Witcher 3 than previous God of War games. Now, while you are locked out of specific regions at times, the game grants you more and more freedom as you proceed. The majority of the game's content takes place in the realm of Midgard, which in Norse mythology is what they call Earth. There's a giant lake in the middle of the map, and you take your protagonist to various boat docks to explore content found there. A fast travel system eventually opens up, rooted in the fiction, pun intended, that helps you traverse more quickly. Thus, with the open world, of course, comes collectibles. Atreus' mother taught him many things about the world and the gods, and as you find points of lore and scrolls, he'll explain things to you and Kratos, which is a really great way of delivering world presentation. Kratos is a stranger to these lands and customs, so we learn along with him. On top of the lore, there's also Odin's spy ravens, glowing green birds hiding here and there, flying in loops, artifacts that can be sold for hack silver, the game's main form of currency, and a couple different varieties of treasure chests are tracked as well. The game is packed with optional content too. Although true side quests are limited to about a dozen or so, there's progression in what's called labors, ranging from killing X number of enemies to using a move a certain number of times to interacting with the environment as well. Completing labors awards you experience, which leads to discussion about the game's combat system. Gone are the days of the button-mashing square combo to take down endless hordes. Kratos' new Leviathan axe still has some combos that can be unlocked with button sequences, true, but sometimes putting away the axe and fighting hand-to-hand is necessary, using blocks and dodge rolls to parry the yellow and dodge the unblockable red circle telegraphs the enemies send, and Kratos can throw that axe in a way akin to Thor's Mjolnir, calling it back to him with the press of triangle. When Kratos is surrounded, you'll see white arrows positionally around him to show where the enemies are, and those arrows will turn red with an impending attack. Sometimes Atreus will yell out where attacks are coming from also. When I first began, I honestly found the combat a bit challenging. As I played more, I could definitely start to feel the flow, so much so that coming back to this game in a year and trying to pick it up from somewhere later in the game could be a little difficult, as your muscle memory and reflexes adopt through that learning curve. Where the game used to be flush with QuickTime events, or QTE, for finishing moves, enemies do have a stun meter this time around that enables Kratos to approach them and hit R3 to perform an action. Sometimes it will auto-finish smaller enemies, but other times you'll be required to perform light or heavy attacks to do as much damage as possible. There are a few different skill trees for hand-to-hand combat, Leviathan Axe, and Atreus' support attacks that can be opened as you upgrade your weapons. Often had more than enough experience to open everything immediately after the upgrade, but again I did play the game very thoroughly, so your mileage may vary. Kratos can equip armor in 3 different slots. Armor comes in various colored rarities and levels and can be upgraded using hack silver and often requires materials found throughout the realm. The Leviathan axe can also be upgraded by one specific material, delivered as a reward most often through story progression battles. Some of the yellow epic armor pieces will require rare materials only found through beating some of the game's more challenging side content. I had a serious hesitation problem in upgrading armor that required rare materials though, but by the time I reached the end of the game it seemed some materials could only be used to upgrade a particular piece anyway, but it was really hard to judge in the moment. Kratos can equip 1 light and 1 heavy runic attack at any given time. These are upgraded also through the use of experience points though, same as the various skill trees for both Kratos and Atreus. Kratos is assigned an overall level, but it's the summation of gear pieces rather than a character level. Enemies you encounter will have a colored life bar that varies relative to your level to give you a visual cue when you're getting ready to encounter something stronger than you. Going back to that nice optional content to be found hidden around the realms, there's a pretty difficult final boss if you want to hit that platinum trophy, which I happily did. The side content was pretty engaging, and the game's trophies were all content-driven, which is what I find particularly enjoyable in a game. Without going too much into spoiler territory, there are 2 different realms that can be unlocked by finding a set of collectibles each, one that features arena-style mode challenges, and another that functions like a mini roguelike, taking trips into a randomly generated dungeon to gather materials to help you make trips further and further into its secrets, with the ultimate goal of opening treasures found in the middle. These realms help you create the best armor sets and provide the final weapon upgrade. While not needed and entirely optional, I greatly enjoyed the time I spent here. The game does have some item-based progression elements to it as well, as Kratos gains abilities to open pathways and treasures as the story progresses. It was a little too much of a barrier at times for 100% completion in my opinion, as the first time I'd go through a zone, I'd try to get everything to kind of help with that platinum trophy later, just to find I wasn't able. While this does add optional stuff for you to come back later, it can feel a little bit of filler, forcing the retread for that 100%. But again, these parts are optional and not necessary to complete the game, so I can't really complain too much. Graphically, this game is beautiful. They greatly diversified the terrain in this rendition of Midgard, providing the snowy forest you'd expect, some lush, beautiful magical forests, some breathtaking mountain peaks, and traveling to other realms besides Midgard gave the same sense of wonder as exploring a new planet in Mass Effect. Kratos' character model and armors are also extremely well detailed. The game does run in 4K, but I am currently limited to recording 1080p at the moment, so you won't be able to see that here for my videos. Running on a PS4 Pro, you're also able to choose if you want a performance or resolution boost, to which I chose performance. Bear McCreary, probably most popularly known for his work on The Walking Dead's composition, composed God of War's score. He's brilliant at matching moods and crescendos with the events that we're seeing on screen. Finally, I want to touch on the game's writing. Now, again, I was a fan of the original God of War trilogy, but put simply, Kratos was a pretty one-dimensional rage machine of a protagonist. But that's all changed. Watching Kratos teach a child and seeing the way he interacts, as well as Atreus' reaction, all unfolds in a way we rarely see in games. The Norse gods encountered in this adventure feel like seeing the villains in a Christopher Nolan Batman film more organic, instead of Batman and Robin with George Clooney, where we shovel every villain we can for noticeability's sake. Even the old God of War games had you running into heroes and gods for what seemed like just the sake of it. Also, where the previous God of War games felt like they were driven on spectacle and pushing that gore envelope, which it did in spades. The third game had a level on the back of a massive titan climbing Mount Olympus with the wrath of the gods coming down on it, which to me did what it was supposed to do. Then turning around and ripping off Helios' head while you watch skin and tendons pull and snap. But now you can play God of War for its epic journey. There's some great plot twists and reveals, and plenty of meaningful moments. I hadn't jumped on the hype train for the approach of God of War. It was only a few days ahead of time that I decided to go ahead and pre-order. I'm really glad I did. The redone combat system with its different options had a great learning curve and provided some decent challenge. The switch to Norse mythology and the excellent writing behind that change made a great story. The open world had a decent number of interesting things to see and do. The characters, including a multi-dimensional parent, Kratos, were fleshed out and believable, and had great interactions. Sony Santa Monica made the 9 Realms really fun to explore, at least what we were allowed to see of it, and I can't wait to see more. Rated as an open-world action-adventure game, God of War hits a 95 out of 100 on my true 0 to 100 scale, where 50 is an average game. This is Jiro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching.